What up, though? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where six fans from around the British Isles get together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It is Wednesday. It is a college football day. Ryan, how are we doing on this very good Senior Bowl week?
I'm good, yeah. There's been a lot going on this week. I've been watching stuff, catch up on YouTube. A lot of interesting things. Like I say, it's great to see some guys actually in action against one another. It's been a up and down week for football. Like I say, there's been some revelations. There's also been, what's happened with Washington today. So it's been a rampacked week so far. I'm only halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. We finally had the Brady retirement. We've had the Brian Flores scandal. There's coaching appointments going on here, there, and everywhere. There is a lot to get through, but that is for the main NFL podcast when we come back there on Monday. For us, we're going to be taking a look at the college football scene, and there is a little bit for us to get through this week. On today's show, we are going to take a look at the NFLPA Collegiate All-Star game, which took place on the 29th of January. We're going to have a little look through that. We didn't mention it last week because there's that much coming at the moment. Forgot about it completely. Do apologize, but yeah. We're going to take a look at the HCBU Combine recap. We discussed that last week. Discussed some players to keep an eye out on, and a few guys did show out, so that's going to be interesting. And then we're going to, as I say, take a look at the Senior Bowl. It is indeed Senior Bowl week. We're halfway through it at the minute. The practices have begun. The information has started streaming out, and we're going to have a little look there at what's going on. And then we're just going to sort of have a general chat about the Senior Bowl and about the Lions draft strategy, because we don't really do much of that. We just do a load of segments that we're just going to sort of freelance it a little bit today. And then at the end, Ryan is going to be making a little announcement as to something we have coming up in the future. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive on down into the show. Oh yes, and thanks to everyone who is listening to us today. If you have any questions or anything for us, feel free to give them. I am in on Twitch today, so if you're listening to us on Twitch, or if you're watching us on Twitch, you're watching us on YouTube, I can see everything today. So put in your questions and we'll answer them as and when I see them. All right, let's get on with it. So as I say, yeah, first thing we're going to look at the NFLPA Collegiate All-Star Game. This took place on the 29th of January. Now, this is one of the premier postseason all-star games you get for college players. It's available to any draft-eligible college football players, but mainly you'll find these are for the guys sort of lower down the draft in those mid-rounds who are looking to make a final impression before the draft in front of visiting scouts. And there were scouts from all 32 teams there. I believe the Lions' own Ray Agnew and John Dorsey were here for this one. It's a week-long experience, I believe, for them all together. It just gives players an opportunity to showcase the games, as I say, to the scouts and the coaches, and it also gives them sort of an introduction to the speed and intensity of professional football and the business and lifestyle changes that go with it. So it's like a little mini camp, as you were, with a game at the end of it. And this takes place between a national and an American team, as per the Senior Bowl as well. And the results of this one, the national team won 25 points to 24 against the American side. The American side were 17-3 up at halftime in this one, but they sort of let it go a little bit in the second half. But some of the standout players for the teams here. So on the national side, you had the MVP of the game. You had quarterback Cole Kelly from southeastern Louisiana. He threw 11 of 16 passes for 103 yards, and he rushed once for 4 yards. The other national quarterback was Brandon Peters from Illinois. He threw 5 of 10 for 101 yards and a touchdown. He rushed 2 times for 15 yards and a touchdown as well. In the running back room, Shamari Jones, the Coastal Carolina running back, he had 1,000 yards this year. He went 6 for 18 with a touchdown. And then in terms of receivers, Khalil Pimpleton, the Central Michigan wide receiver, he got 4 catches, the most on the team, for 21 yards. Lance McCutcheon, Montana State wide receiver, he got 3 for 49. tight end Blake Kern from Arkansas, he got one catch for 47 and a touchdown. And then on the defensive side, Samuel Williams, the defensive lineman from Ole Miss, he had a really good day. He got a couple of tackles. He got a tackle for loss as well. And he also got a forced fumble. And that coincided with the news that he has joined the Lions team for the Senior Bowl this week. So he had a good game here and put himself in contention for the Senior Bowl as well. And I added this one in because I knew Ryan would appreciate it. But the place kicker, Nick Skiba from Wake Forest, he mentions him all the time. He played in this game. He hit his sole field goal for 26 yards. On the American side, a few names you'll know here. So Chase Garbers, their quarterback from California, he went 10 of 13, 119 yards, a touchdown, and rushed twice for 25 yards. Akil Glass, he's the Alabama A&M quarterback. We mentioned him last week in terms of the HCBU Combine. He didn't actually end up going to that. He went to this game instead. He threw 9 of 11, 141 yards and a touchdown, and it was a really good touchdown throw, in fairness. Put it in a real tight space. Managed to get it into, I think it was his tight end he threw it to there. In the running back game, they had a lot more success. Bryant Kobach from Toledo, he rushed 14 times for 58 yards, had a reception for 9 yards. Vaivai Malapai from USC, he got 7 carries for 37 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 12 yards. And then in the receiver room, the standout guy from this whole thing, Dijon Dixon, he's from Norfolk State in the FCS. He got 6 receptions, 131 yards and a touchdown. And Jaquez Ezard from Sam Houston, also in the FCS, he had one of the most productive days going. He had 4 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 4 yards. He got 14 kick return yards, and he got 28 punt return yards as he showed everything he could do. And Michael Cooper, the wide receiver from the Navy midshipman, he got 3 for 52. And then a few good defensive performances. Aaron Mosby, the Fresno State defensive end, 4 tackles and 1 for loss. Eric Johnson, the DL from Missouri State, a tackle for loss, a sack, and a pass breakup. And Malcolm Rodriguez, the linebacker from Oklahoma State, he got a couple of tackles, of forced fumbles, and a couple of pass breakups. This is a good game. It's a lot of guys on show who you wouldn't really usually see this time of year going up now, but a lot of FCS guys got a chance in this one, and some of them really put their names down here going forward.
Yeah, great group of guys. I saw a few hours ago, Jaquez Ezard has been added to the Senior Bowl. He will be joining the Lions, I believe, which is a great pickup. He has been one of the best receivers in the nation for Sam Houston for a year or two now. He is a do-it-all guy. I saw someone comparing today to Tyreek Hill. He's a dynamic receiver. He's a returner, feisty little blocker, can play running back. He is a great overall weapon. But as you mentioned, there's some great guys here. Like Malcolm Rodriguez, people might not have heard of him. 4-year starter. He's been a captain for Oklahoma State. He's been one of the leading tacklers over the last 4 years. I believe he has nearly 500 career tackles. He's an absolute machine. He reminds me so much of Blake Martinez. He has always got a nose for the ball. He's always getting in there. I very much expect him to get picked up in the draft. Cole Kelly, 2 years ago, I believe, at the Lions, Southeastern Louisiana, he won the award for the best player in the nation, I think he is. And you can't miss this guy. He's 6'7". He is a man mountain. He's got a proper big stature, great arm, really good guy. Akil Glass made the right decision to skip the HBCU combine because that is essentially just a combine. So we've actually seen him in quarterback play. Another big guy, 6'4", got a good build on him. Really fast release. Like I say, he did a lot himself, a world of wonder swapping for the combine for a game. Some really great names to watch here. It's really enjoyable. Nick Skiba, as you mentioned, didn't get much work, but one of the Wake Forest legends, like I say, never missed an extra point. Career percentage, I think, north of like 90%. So he's been incredibly accurate his whole career. Sam Williams, dominant defensive lineman. He has been key to Ole Miss this year. He has been getting sacks, anonymous amount of tackles for loss, been one of the best defensive linemen in the whole of SEC, I'd say. I'm surprised. Well, actually, might not be a senior, but he should have got more recognition. He was a true definition of a land shark this year. So it's been really good to watch these guys play and play a good, strong contest that ended tight. So I'd expect a few of these. If you do get any more injuries or people dropping out from the Senior Bowl, they will fly over and they could see him in the next few days getting reps. But these guys are likely to be at the combine as well when it goes to pro days. So these are people you're going to be hearing a lot more of, like really enjoyable. Like saying all of these, they're all the same thing. Like so you've got the Senior Bowl, you've got the NFLPA, you've got the East-West Shrine Bowl. All of these are just getting as many guys as you can that will have pro days that can't necessarily all get to the combine and get to see them on live action. And there's a chance for front office guys to go and see them in action and what they're all about, because this is where you'll pick up your third, fourth, fifth, and sixth round guys. You'll find the real gems here that go under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, say there's that many games going on at the minute, all these All-Stars, it is a nightmare to try and keep a hold of them. I only saw this one as I was looking through the other day, trying to find stuff for this, and I was just like, oh God, I've completely missed a game here, but I was able to watch them because it's actually on the NFL Network. It was a really good game, in fairness. Imagine being able to see one guy who I saw a little bit when I was watching the FCS playoffs, but Lance McCutcheon, he's the Montana State wide receiver. I guess you've seen a lot of him as well during the playoff. Well, you've been watching the playoffs down in the FCS.
Yeah, he was really good. He was I believe in the championship game, he had nearly all their purpose yards, caught the only touchdown, I believe, that Montana State threw. Looks a really good, silky slot receiver. Like I say, he's 6'1", 6'2", nice possession guy, but someone that was really relied on, and he was key on that run to the championship game. So he's someone to really look out for that could make a name in one of those later slots, could find himself on a practice squad, even on Sundays next year as a late round pickup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, as you said, that's what these games are for the guys who are not thought of maybe as much to really break out, give themselves a game and put themselves in notice. And like I say, for guys like Akil Glass, this will have been big for him. His touchdown pass was lovely. And it was great to see him out on the field just slinging it around, only 2 incompletions. So really good day for him there. But yeah, keep an eye out for some of these guys. You'll be hearing more about them as we go on. So we're going to move it on now. And one of our segments we did last week, we talked to you about the HCBU combine. Obviously, that's the or HBCU. I keep getting this the wrong way around. I'm sorry. It's the historically black college and university combine, where the guys from some of these colleges and universities get to sort of put on a show for scouts. There were scouts from all 32 teams in attendance for this. There were 40 guys altogether. We highlighted some last week, and there were some standout performances, let's say, in this one, and certainly some guys who really made scouts try and reevaluate their analysis of them, as you were. So, it's the whole point of this combine in the first place. So we'll look through a few of the guys who've done really well this week. And, it's about 6 or 7 who really stood out. The one who had the best day, though, by far, and you may have seen it dotted around, is Will Adams. He is the safety from Virginia State. Now, he had a really impressive day. He had 21 bench press reps, a 40.5-inch vertical jump, a 10'3" broad jump. That was joint best of the day. How you jump 10 feet from a standing start, I will never know. I could probably do about 2. His shuttle run was 4.14 seconds, a 4:57 40-yard dash. Now, the combine norm for a strong safety is 4:55 and a free safety is 4:53. So he's about bang on there where he needs to be. And a 6:88 second 3 cone, which was really good for him. The 3 cone, it was said, was one of the biggest turning points of the day for scouts. They were really impressed by the way he moved, the fluid hips he showed, just the way he moved. It was really turned heads on there. He got an 8.3 rating on MathBomb's RAS scale in light of his results there, and a lot of people like the RAS scale, so that's going to do him some good there. But it was said afterwards, a lot of guys were saying the NFL scouts there were completely reevaluating him after seeing what they saw at this. And I mean, it was hard not to like him, what you saw. I know we sort of have a trauma complex from safeties with the first name Will, but this guy looked hella good over this combine.
Oh yeah, he looks like one of those guys that's going to be an everywhere kind of do it all. Talking about playing cornerback and safety, I saw the cone drills, the back pedal, like so neat and tidy. Like he was going back and forward flawlessly. He changed direction incredibly well. Like say he's got the like daintiest little steps to cover ground quickly. Really enjoyed watching him. Like say his twitch, the way he changes direction, the lateral movement was really good to see. And he's got a nice slender frame as well. Like say he looks like someone that also had a really good strong year numbers wise. So he worked out really well. And he was pretty nifty as well. Like say in a straight line when needed to be. Really enjoyed watching him. I'd say he was definitely the primary standout guy there, especially defensively. Like I said, the footwork and the cone drills, probably what pleased me the most. Like I say, the ability to stop, change direction, or flip his hips when needed to be, going backwards and forwards. That will be the biggest tell of being a defensive back in the NFL. If you're able to read a guy's feet or hips, keeping low, change direction, that is what separates the good and bad defensive backs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, when you're coming into the defensive back room, a lot of it is just based on your movement, and he moved incredibly well, and it was really great to see. I said this is what this combine is here for. Is to give these exposure to some of these guys who have not had the spotlight shone on them as much, and by my word, he did take advantage of this. And his is a name you'll probably hear a lot more going forward, especially if he gets a good pro day at a noticeable school as well. You will hear the name, and if he tests the same again and he looks the same again, then you might very well see his name get called in the draft. Moving on, so the second guy, and this was one of the guys who we did mention last week. I don't know if we mentioned Will so much, but this is the running back Ezra Gray from Alabama State. He's the 5'8" guy. He was the quite small running back we've got there. So he did a 10-3 broad jump. Again, that was joint best of the day. He had a 38.5-inch vertical, which for his size is quite impressive. Although he didn't do any of the 40s or the cone drills because he is recovering from a hamstring injury and he wanted to give that time to recover. But where he impressed on the day, despite not doing the 40, it was his catching, it was his pass catching and his route running out of the backfield. Now, a lot of scouts were apparently wanting to see what he could do out the backfield in terms of being a receiver. And, that's probably fair due to his size. He probably won't command the heaviest NFL workload just because of, how little he is, and they won't want him getting hit all the time. So he is going to have to show a multi-purpose side to him in there. But by all accounts from the day, I saw his pass catching, his route running was really good. And there were a lot of guys who were really impressed with him because of this and said he's so quick in getting out to the perimeter and attacking the perimeter. And if he can do it with his passes as well, he will offer an NFL team a viable option out the backfield. Yeah, Ezra Gray, really good day for him.
Yeah, another one that I saw that I did mention last week as the standout wide receiver had to be Marquise McLean. I really like this guy. Clocked in at 6'2", 225 pounds. So pretty much the biggest and the bulkiest. So he's got the best frame for a pro receiver. I saw his the high jump, the broad jump. He recorded full 10 feet too. So he had a really good jump on him. He's got really strong legs, elastic calves, his explosion from that standing point there. The high jump as well. I saw really good solid crouch explosion. Is it predicted to run? I think it's pro day. They've said it could be anywhere between a 4:48 and a 4:57, which is roughly the range he ran. So he's got that good straight line speed as well from someone that he's got that nice frame. Just came off a year with 730 receiving yards. Someone that was a dynamic weapon at his college. And he was definitely one of the guys that stood out as an aerial receiving threat. He looks really crisp running the routes. He's got nice soft hands. Didn't drop much that came his way. Like I say, there was a odd gauntlet. I think they ran some of the receivers. I think he was definitely one of them offensive-minded weapons that stood out there that I think will garner a lot of interest. I'd really like to see him work out and potentially he's going to end up going, I think maybe undrafted, but he's got to be the kind of guy that the Lions would be looking at to have on a practice squad, give some experience to next year because he looks the part. Like he's really explosive and he's got nice long legs and a good catch radius too. So the combine did the world of wonder for him.
And he managed 18 bench reps as well, which is decent for a receiver. They don't often do the most in the world when it comes to the bench. So he had a lot going for him. His his 40-yard dash was 450, which isn't bad. So yeah, it was a good, really good day for Marquise McLean. Probably one of the best out of the receivers there. There were a few other guys as well who really did well. Speaking of guys who the Lions want to watch, I mentioned him last week. Keenan Forbes, the offensive guard from Florida A&M, the guy who got 92 pancakes over last year, something stupid. This guy is a man mountain. He's huge, and I've watched some of his tape from this, and he's even bigger than I thought he'd be. This guy is absolutely massive. But they were testing. He didn't do his 40. He didn't do much in terms of the athletic testing that way. But what they did do, they were using him on the line. They were wanting to see how he moved, and they really pushed him hard in regards to his movement, how he can get out to the second level, all that, etc., etc. And he looked really good. He showed, a really, his hips are really great. His motion is fluid. His change of direction skills really good for a guy his size. And I mean, I just like him the more and more I see of him. And for if I'm going to take a guard prospect and development one instead of a first teamer, he's near up at my top of the list of the guys I want now. He did really well. And then the other running back that we mentioned, Jermaine Martin, North Carolina A&T, he didn't do much testing on this day, but apparently we mentioned last week he had a ridiculous 2019 in season, about 1,600 yards, and then he only managed about 500 last year, despite only taking 17 less snaps. Well, I've done a bit more digging, and apparently he's been playing with a sprained MCL all season, which can't be fun as a running back. Don't know why he's done it, but they must really have needed him. So he didn't do any athletic testing because he wants more time to recover from that, and he hopes to do his numbers at a pro day. But he did do positional drills, and he was said to be the most fluid pass catcher amongst all the running backs out the backfield there. So another good day for him. There are quite a few guys here who've really pushed claim to getting their name called in the draft here, aren't they? It's been a really good combine.
It was, yeah. It was a great week in general for these guys that are from the smaller schools. Like Jet Duffy, he proved what I thought would be right, that at the next level, he projects to play a different position at other than quarterback, because he isn't the strongest. He doesn't have the biggest upper body strength at just topping 6'1", 200 plus pounds, but he's fast twitch. He's really fast. He's got really nice footwork. He's got that twitch, so he's got those fluid hips. So to say he's played at quarterback, from the drills I saw, I think he looks like a running back. I'd be asking him to take carries if I'm going to put him at a pro day, put him in an offense where I expect him to play that slot kind of guy. So he looks an interesting prospect. It's just where you fit him. But there's so many guys that did really well. We saw some really talented people. I'd hope this combine grows over the years and then gets on the bigger networks as well. You'd like to see one day this on the NFL Network.
Yeah, it would be nice, because I mean, I've had to find most of the footage we've had here through YouTube and other such things, such as with the Senior Bowl this year. It's kind of the same. You do hope the televisation of it gets a lot better. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many guys who did really well in this. There's a few more. Jerry Garner, the linebacker from Mississippi State, keep an eye on him. He had probably one of the best days in terms of the numbers he put up of everyone. He put up a 9.2 broad jump, a 4.78.40, a 4.25 shuttle, 3 cone was 7.28. He benched 25 reps. He really did move well. His twitch, his hips, his bend all looked really good while they were doing the positional drills for a linebacker. So he's another name to keep an eye out for if you're looking for a late round developmental linebacker. And also Felix Harper had a good day as well. He's the Alcorn State quarterback. He was the other one to watch out for behind Akil Glass, but with no Akil Glass there, he sort of took the main stage there. And he looked really good, especially his movement and his footwork, making his throws. That looked sort of bang on there. So hopefully he gets another chance to impress at a pro day as well. Is there anyone else you want to mention before we move on?
Just the whole class in general. I'm really impressed with all 40 guys. For people that don't know about it, it's a very professional setup. Like say, it's lasers, it's pointers, it's radars, it's doing everything by the book. Like say, it's not a half-ass job. Like it's a proper combine. These times are all official. Like say, and they will go to a well way towards them at the next level, getting them work out before they have pro days. Because some of these guys, they won't get pro days because they're at small schools. Like say, Missouri Valley State, you've got Hampton, you've got Alcorn State, Norfolk State. Won't all get a pro day necessarily.
No, absolutely. And they said that is the part of the reason why they're doing this. So, fair play to them. And it went on really well. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. There will be a HCBU All-Star game, I believe, on the 19th of February. So we will revisit that a bit closer to the time, which you will probably see a lot of these guys on show. And I do believe they are showing that on the NFL Network as well. So you might get to see them in person in a game situation. Yeah, that's everything for the HCBU Bowl. Just a shout out to everyone who's watching us. YouTube One Pride 40, what up? Yep, you're in there. Thanks very much for joining us. Micro Mike has also been in there as well. We are honored. He has a huge show on YouTube and he makes my knowledge about the Lions look tiny. So thank you for joining us and all the guys who are there in Twitch as well. We do really appreciate it. So we'll move it on now. So we're moving on to the Senior Bowl. So obviously this is Senior Bowl week. We're into our second day of practices. Obviously the Lions getting a very close look at some of the guys going so far. Is there anything that's taken your fancy, sort of anything that's popped out of you so far out of these first few days?
Oh yeah, it's the receiver. It's got to be the North Dakota State receiver, Christian Watson. Like this is the FCS guy that has stood out above all. He has looked fantastic. I've seen this guy monumental, a key piece for multiple national title winning teams, and he got the measurements he needed. Listed at 6'5", came in at just over 6'4". He's got a 215, 220 frame. So he's a big strapping lad. So the measurements weren't a lie, like some of them were, which we might talk about. But no, he looked fantastic so far. Oh God, there's people that want him on the Lions already. You could see this kid going the third or fourth round. He's got that great radius, runs a really smooth route on the outside. And when he needs to go over you or go through you to get the ball, he will. He will use all of that frame. He looks like a wide receiver one at the next level already. Whoever he's catching the ball from, he is silky. He's a man mountain, and he reminds me a bit like Mike Evans. He's got that kind of swagger to him, and he's got that really good, strong frame, the way he carries himself. So it's safe to say people are gushing over him already.
Yeah, I'd agree. I saw Matt Miller, also known as Draft Scout on Twitter. He tweeted out that his draft crush for Christian Watson is the real deal, and he does know what he's talking about there. There's already some guys who've popped off. I mean, Ash has been telling us profusely about every single tweet that's come out. Jermaine Johnson has really been impressing at this combine. Apparently, there's a lot of love for him there, especially from the Lions coaching staff, which is no surprise really. I think edge is going to be a priority for us, and it sort of moves us in. One Pride 40 is in the chat with us on YouTube. Again, thanks for joining us, One Pride. He goes, with all these pass rushers balling, why do we have to take one at two? And that for me, we don't. And I would agree totally. We don't have to take one at two. And this has been my biggest argument for a long time now, that you're looking to maximize your value out of this draft for every pick. And if you were to say, go Kyle Hamilton at 2, I know it's not the popular one, but if you were to go at him and then were to get an edge like Jermaine Johnson at the end of round 1, it would provide a greater value over those 2 picks than, say, would a Kayvon Thibodeau and then a Juwan Brisker, maybe, if he's still there. He's probably never going to be there, to be fair, but the overall valuation of those 2 top picks you're getting is going to be bigger because there is a much better edge class behind it. But I mean, would you agree? We don't need to take one at 2, do we? There is a lot of talent there, in my opinion, anyhow.
Absolutely not. No, you've got you've got Jermaine Johnson, you've got Enigbare, who looks good. You've got what's his name? You've got Zachary Carter, the defensive lineman from Florida.
Yeah.
sack machine of his career. So there is so much depth. You've got the guy from San Diego State. Let's say he's forgotten his name. I think it's Cameron something. We only spoke about the other day, but we listed at least we have 7 lots of edge players, like say, on both sides. There's no reason to take number 2. You even got a Jabo. There's talks of him going at 8 if you need to trade back out of 2 and you get an offer. Sure, take him there, like you say, or top 10, 15. There's no reason to take edge at 2. Hedge your bets. Just buy your time. Don't show your cards too early. Like, there's no need to blow your load. Not this year.
Oh God, no! You've got guys all over this show, and we've actually been blessed with quite a lot of good ones here. So you can't really go wrong there. So yeah, I'd agree. They don't really need to go that early. One Pride also asks, are you worried they take a quarterback this year? What do you reckon with this one?
No, from what I've seen from the Senior Bowl, I've been watching a lot of clips and the highlights. I am fine taking a quarterback this year. It's just where rounds 2 onwards, I will take one, even the second quarterback in rounds 5, 6, or 7. I would take 1 or 2 this year because I'm starting to get won over by some of the guys now, as I've seen a lot of people on Twitter people are warming to the idea that if one of these guys slips the second round, that you pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mentioned this last week on the show. I think because of the lack of number 1 options this year, I reckon that there's going to be a case where a lot of teams will go for one of these second round guys, but as an insurance policy, they might pick up a development guy as well and have 2 of them on the go at once, just in case they don't work out. So I fully agree with you. I could see a situation where some teams, I'm not saying necessarily we will, because we don't really have that many draft picks, but they're a position where a lot of teams could take 2, but I don't know. I look at the things I've seen the interviews. They like Sam Howell. I thought they would like Sam Howell because of the way he throws. I know he was asked about Malik Willis yesterday. He did make some good throws, but he made some really bad ones as well. I think it's fair to say, watching the Malik Willis tape yesterday, you saw him in a nutshell. You saw a guy who is incredibly good when he wants to be, but you also saw a guy who throws some inexplicably bad passes the next snap.
Yeah. A lot of them as well were overthrows. Like say, I don't know if he's nervous or if there's tension in his arm, but he was getting guys that were in stride and he was throwing that ball at least 3-4 yards too hard ahead of them. Like say, I don't understand. Like say, he looks great sometimes, like he'll drop it in the bucket, or he'll fire a pass in that'll get dropped, but it's not on him. Like say, because he's put too much heat on it. But you get the best of him, you get the good of him. I saw one player where I think he scrambles out to the left of the pocket and he gets at least 10, 15 yards on the rush. Like you say, like he avoids that pressure because obviously they wear red jerseys, you're not supposed to touch them, but they sent pressure, flushed him out, and then he was away on an undesigned run. But we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of him all year, and that trend kind of just continues.
Yeah, it really is. There was one throw I saw where he threw it towards the outside and the DB was like diving to catch it and there wasn't a receiver within like 5 yards. And you're like, where the hell was that going? He's just thrown one up. He's just thrown catching practice up for the DB. And I'm just like, oh, I think it's the same with them all though. It's a very hard class to evaluate, isn't it? They all got their pros, they've all got the cons, and you've just got to try and. It's almost, I reckon, they're going to have to go with gut feeling as much as anything with some of these guys. A few more guys in YouTube. Luke G's in there. I've been listening, but we got mad snow here in Michigan. God, I haven't seen snow in this country for. Well, we've seen a little bit, but not a lot recently. But hey, Luke, thank you for joining in. You're our favorite guy over there. You know we love you to bits, and thank you for listening. Det Fan Man's in as well. He says, seeing Malik Willis in a Lions hat walking around is the tea leaves prediction. We're going to be seeing him in a Lions hat for real. It would be divisive, I think. And I think a lot of it would also depend on where we pick him. But I mean, there's not really going to be much difference between pick 31 and pick 34 now, is there? So either or, it could happen. Never know there. One Pride 40, One Pride 40 says, my guy is Arnold Abikiti from Penn State. Is he on our team? Is he there at the minute? I don't remember mentioning his name. Or is he on the Jets team?
I don't recognise that name. He's not on our side, I don't think.
Yeah, he must be on the Jets team there. Luke says we're getting 8 to 12 inches of snow. Good God, I don't think we've had that in
Oof.
like the last 5 years here. Like all told, all together. Well, stay safe, Luke. You be careful. You make sure you get home all right. Yeah. So I mean, one thing that has noticed to me, just spitballing, the offensive line play's been terrible. There were a lot of guys there we were quite, you know, big on, and we gave them a bit of bigging up. But I mean, from what I've seen, again, the running backs have had nothing whatsoever to work with, and the smart ones have been trying to push around the outside. Because especially in the interior, there's been no there.
No, I've seen a lot of players like they've been relying heavily on, let's say, like Brian Robinson, the big back, but even he's struggled to get through because I've seen linebackers coming down, filling the holes, they're meeting them at the line of scrimmage almost. They're getting bullied and pushed around a lot of the offensive linemen. I've seen quite a few of them struggling. So it's not been the best player as well. I saw a player where, oh, I don't know who it is. I think it could be, it's one of the defensive linemen. They grab the offensive lineman and they push him all the way into Ridder and they slam him to the floor and he brings Ridder down. And everyone's like, that was a big no-no. But in the real world, that offensive lineman got absolutely dominated. I know you can't hit Ridder because he's got a red jersey on, but he got bull rushed and tossed to the ground like a Chucky doll. And that just tells you that some of them are struggling. So in any other world, I think that's a fantastic play by the defensive lineman.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do want to see it a little bit, don't you? I mean, you've got to see how they can really let it go on these recent. I know you can't contact as much, but if you're going to be drafting these guys, you do want to see them up close and personal, really, really going at it. But I mean, as much as it might be bad O-line play, you can say there's just been a lot of good defensive line play as well. But I know one O-line guy who did stand out, and I saw a few tweets about him earlier. Apparently, the Lions quite like him, Darian Kinnard. He's the Kentucky guard, if I'm remembering rightly. Oh, he's the Kentucky tackle, isn't he? He's huge. He's a lot bigger than I didn't really do too much in, but seeing him up close and personal, he's massive. But I saw a few plays. He was excellent. He dealt with all sorts of pass rush moves against him. He's just like, yeah, pushed him off. He looked really good.
Yeah, he did look good. I saw somewhere, I think Drew Staley was picked him and Jermaine Johnson for like one-on-one drills. Like he wanted to see them going against one another. Like say, because I think he had a choice of requesting it. Like say if there's anyone that want to line up against each other, and those two were going hammer and tong. Like they were going full on. And they came out of it both on really strong sides. His handwork was really good. Like there's a lot of the ones where you're defending a dummy or a bag, you got to stop them getting around you. And those two were a great matchup against one another. So he has done really well so far as Kennard.
Yeah, I agree there. And we all know that Campbell and Holmes, they love their trench guys. So you've got to think that they're keeping their eyes really, really closely on him at the minute. Just another shout out in the chat there. We've got a few guys in here now. One Pride thought he mentions he can't go anywhere at the moment either, but he's tested positive for COVID. One Pride, we wish you all the very best. Hopefully you get back to full fitness very soon. But until then, you know, you just relax up and hopefully, yeah, you get better soon. So, but we appreciate you spending your time joining us here as well. Michael Lucis is in the chat. Hello to you, Michael. You gave us a question, actually. We'll deal with that one in a little moment there. In fact, no, why don't we go to it right away? Where were we? So yeah, Michael asks, he says the Senior Bowl, it's going to be full of late round picks, some potential steals in there, and obviously the Lions get an advantage here. We get the best possible look at these guys. He goes, do you expect Holmes to be very active in the later rounds, even trading back early or giving up some future picks for more picks later on if there are a lot of guys he falls in love with here at the Senior Bowl?
Oh yeah, if he falls in love with a guy here that rises up next year, I wouldn't be surprised that we use our extra first next year to move up again this year. I think if he needs be, he will spend some 2023 capital or late 2022 to move up. Just like we saw him do for Derek Barnes, he gave up a mid-rounder to move up like 3 or 4 spots in the 4th round. I expect us to have lots of changes. Like I say, if any offer comes for 2 or comes for 31 or 32 or 34, he will combine packages. We've also got 3 compensation picks projected. I expect all 3 of them to be used in at least one trade because they make great ammunition. Because we've done pretty well. We're the only team predicted to get a 3rd rounder. I think that will be invaluable, and he is going to get a steal. He's going to use that on one of these guys here, and I've made a list of who I wanted to go to because I've seen some great 3rd round talent here.
Yeah, I fully agree for this. Just quickly, Michael says we've had about 15 inches of snow so far in central. Is that Illinois? Is that good? Good God, it's just snowing like mad over there. Send a little bit our way. We do want a little bit of snow here. We don't get any that much. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, One Pride asks how many players do you reckon we take from the Senior Bowl this year? And I had a little dig last year through all the teams very briefly, and we took, what did we go through last year? We took 5 players last year. We used a 2nd on Levi, a 3rd on Iffy, or was it a 4th? It was a 3rd on Iffy, a 4th on Barnes. Obviously, we traded up to get him, and we got 2 UDFAs as well. I know we got more guys later on in the year, but he was very active in terms of the Senior Bowl roster. But outside of the number 2 picks, obviously there's no number 2 pick here at the Senior Bowl, and I think we can agree that the number 2 pick ain't coming from here. But I think after that, feasibly, every single pick's in play for a Senior Bowl guy here. I could see a scenario where we clean sweep with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys here that I've seen that are worthy of a 2nd round pick onwards. Like say Jalen Petra. I love the guy. Like say he is shooting up draft boards. He could be the 2nd best safety in the draft. I would take him at 34 in a heartbeat. Like say, and anyone onwards then, like say Watson, Troy McBride. Oh God, everyone loves him. He is the standout tight end of the whole class. Like say, he's probably going in the 2nd round. But then you've got the likes of, like say, got Abraham Lucas. You've got Bernard Raymond, who interviewed really well, really smart guy. If we're in for picking up a guard later on, like say, there's loads of guys here. There's been some good corners. Like say, McCrary might drop to the 2nd. Like say, there's some guys out there. I'd say at least 4 guys I think will draft and or pick up on as undrafted free agents.
Oh yeah. I can see a lot of guys who they like here, and I think one of the big things about Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell guys is it's their personality. They want to know they've got the work ethic, they've got the personality for it, because they're getting up close and personal with these guys. If they see the guys with the right work ethic, the right personality, and the right set of developable skills there, I think that, you could call it a slam dunk pick if they're going to go for them there. But I mean, Trey McBride, I've mentioned him more than enough times. I mean, I know you said there he's a 2nd round pick. This may be controversial, but I'd pay that. I'd pay that right now. He's a blocking tight end primarily, but you're seeing here his receiving skills on show. I think, it's a critical piece for us, the offense. I know it's not a defensive player, but blocking tight end is a massive gap on the offense. And if you're going to get a blocking tight end who's really good and can also catch balls, I just don't know. I think it's worth that kind of capital being invested in him. I don't know about you, but I mean, I saw the battles between him and Jalen Petra, and good God, they're very, very competitive. There was none of this hands-off stuff there with them, was there? It was a great matchup to watch.
Oh yeah, there's one player where he brings Petra up to line of scrimmage, and this guy's 6'2", and he goes out to like in the slot as a wideout, and he drives in 7 yards. He tosses him away and then runs across like a skinny post and takes the ball upfield. Like he manhandled him. Like I said, them two have been going out hammer and tong, like I say, and they're both massive guys for their position. Like I said, they're both great. Like I say, Trey McBride looks fantastic because he's been working him out in the slot. I think he's got Kyle Pitts potential and he's a better blocker.
Yeah, agreed totally. And I think those kind of guys, you need to snap them up while you can. There's guys in the chat along with us. Michael appreciates the feedback. Thank you, Michael. Hopefully we answered that well enough for you. One Pride 40 says about 3. You can't take everybody from the Senior Bowl. Now that is true. You can't take everyone from the Senior Bowl, but for me, I can see players who sort of land in our projected areas where we're picking, specifically, the end of the first, start of the second, the third round comp area, the fourth. I think it lands pretty well for us here. So hopefully we'll get the safety early on. We've got the quarterbacks, the linebackers who are there at sort of the end of the first or second. You've got some of the tight ends, going a little bit back. You've got developmental guards here. I don't know. I can just foresee a scenario where some of these guys fall to us here, and they're from the Senior Bowl, but you never know. One pride goes, we might just take Hamilton. Well, I might just agree with you on that one. Obviously, yeah, I do agree. I've been on that for so long now. Michael goes, I can see Jermaine from FSU been the pick at 32 or 34. Yep, I can fully see that. Although, I don't know. Do you reckon he's going to drop that far now with his Senior Bowl performances, or do you reckon he's sort of slowly creeping out of range for us?
I don't know. I think he could go in between our first and our second first round picks. I think we're going to struggle. If the Rams win the Super Bowl and we pick at 32, I think you might have to move up a few spots. I think you'll see him maybe go in that 20 to 25 range. It might just be a bit too far for us, like I say, unless you're willing to give up some capital.
Yeah, I don't know what the price would be like there. I mean, I guess for 2 or 3 spots in the first, you'll be coughing up a good third or a second. And yeah, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of value. We need as many picks as we can get there, really. If we could trade back that number 2 pick and somehow get some more capital in that range there, I think that would be absolutely perfect for us with that there. Oh, I don't know. Is there anyone else on the Jets team who you've been looking at who stood out as well? Because I know we've had a chance to look at both sides here. But obviously Trey McBride, he's one of the standout guys. But any of the quarterbacks, anyone else really caught your eye on there?
Ridder interviewed well. Like I say, I was interested. He said I saw that he compared himself. He wants to play like Deshaun Watson, but he wants to have the consistency of Ryan Tannehill. Was the answer? I think like he molded himself on. Now I thought that was an interesting combination. Like I say, you've got a bit of a gunslinger and then you've got that game manager. But I like him to have the temperament of Ryan Tannehill. Very rarely gets flustered, but his play on the field actually really he's not looked great. Like I say, he's their whole set of quarterbacks have been. They probably made less mistakes, less drop passes, less overthrows, but they're not making the splash plays. Kenny Pickett has struggled. I have not been impressed with what I've seen whatsoever. And we've all seen the whole controversy how like he chose not to have his hands measured because apparently he's got a double jointed thumb, so he wants like a special thing to measure it. But I'm sorry, Kenny, that's not going to change your thing. We all know you've got like 8 1/4 inch hands. He's got tiny hands. And I've also seen today and yesterday someone put he has 34 career fumbles. So he wears 2 gloves, but he also puts the ball on the ground a lot too. So you can try run, but you can't hide from hand measurements, Mr. Pickett. I'm sorry. It's going to come back and it's going to hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the big concerns about him. And if you're not going to alleviate the concerns about you, and then chatter is going to rise. I know today I've been looking there, and they said he started off well today, but they reckon his play's got worse as the practice sessions have gone along and the intensity is up. So again, these quarterbacks, man, you just don't know how to evaluate them properly and what you're going to get from them. There's just too many ifs and buts, I feel.
Yeah, it's been a shaky start so far. I was glad to see my running back on the Jets side, Rashad White, on the first day of practice, broke off a long run and he came second on the fastest clocked. Came in at just over 21 mile an hour, like I say, when he got up to full speed. And he's a 6'2", he's one of the bigger backs, heavier. So he had a nice day as well. Romeo Doubs, people are talking about him. He's having a really good 2 days as well. Like I say, he's making some nice plays. He's also looking fast as well, speedy. So the Jets, they've got some good guys out there.
Yeah, they have. And thankfully, one of them isn't Devin Lloyd because I believe he's dropped out of it. So it's just like a real a real relief there. I did not want to have to go up against him. Obviously, he's a very special player, and everyone knows what he's capable of. But yeah, they've had a few big profile dropouts of this. Just going back in the chat again, Michael One Pride there still in there. One Pride says that about 90% of Quintrish's drafts were Senior Bowl players. Might sound right, but in fact, thinking about it, quite a lot of them did go to the Senior Bowl. So he's saying it is a risky strategy just basing them off this 1 week. But I mean, I don't know if there's really a theme to drafting players and to having success with the Senior Bowl. And that, I mean, I had a look last year, and it seemed it was pretty even across the board. There was no like standout team. The Vikings picked the most players last year. They had 7. They spent 3/3, 2/4 on the Senior Bowl, and they spent a couple on undrafted free agents as well. But I mean, then there's a few teams on 6 players. We're part of the group who took 5. I don't, I don't know if anyone. I don't know. It depends on how much they pick, but it doesn't seem to me that anyone entirely puts their stock in this. The Cardinals, by the way, were the only team who didn't take anyone from last year. But I don't know how much you can take from this. But I guess they've already done their. I guess I've already done the big analysis of them. And I guess now you're just finding out like the little bits you want to know if there's anything specific in your scouting reports of them. So, if you were to pick a lot from this, I don't think I'd read too much into it. I don't know about you. Would you say you would, or would you just be you'd be confident that they'd sort of fine tune their analysis of them?
I wouldn't read too much into it. Primarily, for anyone like say that hasn't watched it, forget the game. The game is not what matters at the Senior Bowl. It's like the Pro Bowl. It's like playing football, volleyball. You can't blitz. Like say, you're barely allowed to hit the quarterback. Most drills, let alone the game. It's more of a thud. So the drills are what matters. The interviews, like I said, that's why coaches want to be there. Not because they want to watch them playing a game, but they want to see their technique in drills and they want to talk to them as well. I saw Sam Howell say that he's loved working with Ben Johnson because he breaks the game down and he makes it slow enough for him to understand, making the jump to the next level. And for quarterbacks, like say a potential offensive coordinator, like that's probably one of the highest compliments you could pay. And the Lions seem to love Sam Howell, and he seems to like the Lions as well. Like say, so it's really getting to know the guys. Like say, you've had good chats like Bernard Raymond. He was asked, and he made like a cheeky comment how he also got an offer from I think Central is offers from Western Michigan. Like say, you get to know their personalities, you get to know what they're all about. So I wouldn't read too much into it. Like say, you very rarely get players that absolutely bust, but you don't get these guys that are future world famous because a lot of those don't enter because they don't want to risk injury. Like say, seeing these players drop out because they're thinking, well, I've done enough because I've done some drills. I'm not going to risk injury any further. The big seniors don't get invited because they already shown their games and national talent. So this is just a great breeding ground. It's more about getting to know them as individuals because you know they can play. Like we know Jaquan Brisker could play. Like say, even though he's had injuries in the past, I wanted to meet him and talk to him. Like say before, like say, or he wasn't available or dropped out. So even if we go full draft, it's not too much. It's not panic mode. It's not desperation. Yeah. It's not, oh, you've just passed on all these because you've met them this week or you picked them all because they're a nice guy. Like they're here to do work, and this is the most professional workout they'll have ever had. Like I say, this is not children's play. This isn't like say high school. It's not having Okies where it's the biggest dog wins. It's not swinging dicks, pardon my French. This is legit. Like say, don't hit the quarterback. This is red shirts, like say, and it's also about controlling yourself.
And it's good practice for when you're playing against Aaron Rodgers because you're not allowed to hit him either without getting a flag thrown at you.
Yeah, like say, you're also gonna have to get used to getting yelled at, getting told when to stop. Like say, if you go too hard, you're gonna get shouted at, like the guy that almost pushed someone into Ridder and hurt him. He got yelled at, even though he made a great play. He tossed the offensive lineman into a red shirt quarterback. So it's discipline as well.
Exactly. I think, and that for me is again one of the things that would alleviate any concerns I had about if we drafted too many guys. As I said earlier, I think that Holmes and Campbell are, they look for the culture guys. They look for the guys with the right attitude. And if they've got a list, because Brad Holmes picked this roster, let's not forget. So if they've put these two rosters together and crossed, circled the most amount of names of guys they want, and they get them to this camp, and they get guys who have the right attitude, who just have that last little piece of the puzzle that they're looking for, and they pick them. I think that's great because it means you don't have to take as much of a risk at drafting them, because you're getting the guy athletically, and you're getting the guy mentally as well. So, I'd probably be more happy the more we went for it, because I just think the way these guys work, it sort of puts it out towards that way there. But I don't know.
I think
We could. Sorry, go on.
when it comes to picking players, the message I got was Brad Holmes picked quarterbacks who will be in range to be selected. If he'd have picked Kenny Pickett, I'd have thought, well, it don't matter because we're not going to be anywhere near taking Kenny Pickett. He's going to be taken long after we pick in the first two, and we take him well before we pick again. So I think they're very much strongly considering taking a quarterback. That's what I got. Which, if they're strongly considering it or they're not, don't say Jared Goff's not the guy, but it says they're thinking about life after as well, which is very sensible. The hit rate on picking a quarterback that succeeds at the end of the first or the early second is absolutely minuscule. Lamar Jackson was taken at 32. If you look at everyone taken between the end of the first and the second, most of them are complete busts. Very hit rate. But I'm fine with that because they're not expected to start anytime soon. And we picked the best set of quarterbacks that fit the Lions.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think someone put in the chat earlier they could see Brad Holmes trading down from 32 to get us more picks. But we were talking about Howell a minute ago, and if they really do love him as much as we've been led to believe they do this week, and it gets to 26 or 27 or 28 and he's still there, could you see almost the reverse where they'll throw in a little tempter and go up and get him if they really do like him that much?
Yeah, I think they'll give someone that compensatory third round pick. I think they'll move up 3 spots and they'll take Sam Howell and they will groom him because he's a groomable kid. Like we've seen this week, his arm is huge. He has made some huge throws down the sideline. He's dropped in touchdowns. Like I say, there's everything to like about the kid. If we picked him up at 29 and it only cost us, like say, an extra third round pick, that compensation pick or one of the Rams picks, I'd be absolutely fine with that because he won't be expected to start, but who knows? He could really surprise you and he could steal the starting job.
Yeah, and the thing that's always stood out about him for me is his toughness, both mentally and physically. He's withstood a hell of a lot this year. He can take a beating on the pitch, he can take a battering off it, and he sort of really reminds you of him. And he's got the arm talent to be that sort of, not as elite as he is, but to be in that same sort of mold as Stafford is, a leader who will, take all the big hits and get up and carry on leading your team forward. And I think I always said, I think that might resonate with Campbell, and it does seem to be doing so. So you never know, we could well see a trade up. I think that is very well much impossibility as much as a trade down with that second one. Depth Fabin in the chat goes, I think it's clear tight end and rotational offensive tackle who are both on the day 3 board this year. I mean, possibly, do you agree with that one? Or, I mean, would we need to really invest? Because, I mean, outside of tackle, if Crosby doesn't come back, the trouble is there's no depth behind it. Do you want like a rotational development guy from late on, or would you rather invest a little bit more up the board for a depth guy behind them?
Yeah, if someone falls, I'd be fine going on day 2 or 3. Like you say, if we can get someone that can play all the positions, if we can get someone that is able to potentially work their way into lineup and ease Vitae out later on in the season, that'd be fine by me. And tight end, yeah, it's fine. Like say, if on day 3 or the end of day 2, they want to go for someone like Greg Dulcich. He's had a really good first 2 days as well. The guy from UCLA, I've watched him play. He looks like a guy that could be a good tight end too. Like I say, I think there's a guy there to be had. Like I say, if we want to use that compensatory round, third round pick on a tight end, I'm fine with it because they're throwaway picks. They're picks of guys that have left and earned themselves a deal, and we've been graciously handed them. So you can do whatever you want with those kind of picks for me, as long as it works out.
Yeah, and we don't really have a need to draft special teams this year, so yeah, go for it. I guess if there's a guy there, I mean, I'd trust Hank Fraley to develop a guy the way he's developed these O-line guys over the last 2 years. So give him some raw talent to work with, and he will develop it. It was it was Michael who mentioned Holmes trading down from 32. He said teams will want that spot because it comes with the 5th-year player option as well. And possibly they might. I could see a situation where we could trade down, but you just feel like with Sam Howell there is a possibility they could go up. But who knows? Luke's back in the chat. I was looking at players based off Holmes' stats about the kind of players they're looking for. And I can tell you there's no reason to take a wide receiver high, which you probably agree with, and there's no reason to take a defensive line guy at all. I don't know about that one. I guess wide receiver high, I guess after the success with Amon-Ra last year, I think you would trust them to go a bit lower down to find a wide receiver this year. But I think there's a lot of talent to be had, not on day one in the receiver group again this year.
Yeah, the receivers have done really well. Like there are names here that people really like. Like if you want to avoid round one, you're gonna get a great talent, like say like Jahan Dotson. If he's there at the start of the second round, a lot of people like him in Detroit. Second and third round, you've got Wan'Dale Robinson. You've got guys like him. Like say there's some really nice player there. Like say you've got say Olave. I feel like he's gonna fall out the first round. I feel like there's people that are working their way up, and I feel like he could be someone that could potentially slide. Like say, he's had a fantastic year, but I've noticed people who just don't seem to be talking about him like they were a year ago. Like say, I feel like he was passed by his teammate as well. So there's going to be a really good chance to get someone in the middle rounds that falls from grace. And that last comment, don't trade down for no reason. I don't want to trade back just because we get a great offer if you've got no plan what to do with those picks. Don't trade down for the sake of it, is all I say. If someone comes in with a haul for 32, but we end up moving back just for the sake of it, at least have a mind and idea. I'd rather take someone to get that 5th-year option. Let's say don't trade for 2023 picks. That's one thing. Don't kick the can down the road. If you like a class this year, take trades where you get to pick this year, because you never know what's going to happen with the future picks next year. And that is something I'm always wary of.
Well, yeah, I agree. And the thing for us is we've got the extra first round pick next year. So you've got all the trade capital you need right there. An extra first can get you a lot in a draft. If you want to draft down next year, get some mid-round guys that you really like, that's fine. But I agree with you. I think there's just so much more value to be had in this draft in some positions than we've seen in quite a few years now. So, yeah, I agree. If you've got a guy, get him. We saw this year, Brad Holmes went and got his guys. He even went up for one when he needed to, and he got his guy, but he's landed on his picks. So he had a plan in place and he followed it and he did well with it. So, same again, because this is a really critical off season for us. We've got to get it right. We've got all the money coming back from free agency, from the dead cap. We've got these picks here. The Bears and the Vikings have just changed over ownership. The Packers could be the Packers are losing coaches at a rate of knots. They've lost the tight ends coach today to Denver, as well as Hackett. Rodgers could be going. You really need to nail this because there's an opportunity in the NFC North to do really well going forward, and you've got to get the players here to do with that. So yeah, I agree. Don't just trade down for the sake of it. In response to Luke mentioning about don't take a DL guy at all, One Pride and Michael have quickly come in defending that, well, arguing that point. They're mentioning Perry and Winfrey, and he is an intriguing option on the inside defensive line if you want to go again. He's the Oklahoma behemoth. Don't know if you've seen him.
I have, yeah. Like say, he's really disruptive from the inside. But I agree. I don't want to take interior defensive linemen. Like I say, when I think about it now, so we've got McNeil, we've got Pinasina, who should stay as well. We've got Levi. Like I say, Brockers will still probably be here. But like I say, outside of that, I don't want to add too much because we still have like Bruce Hector that kept on the practice squad. If we bring him in as well, like say, if for any reason we get Kevin Strong, like say, if he returns next year, if they offer him a deal or if he's picked up, or like say as a free agent. So I don't want to invest in the interior too heavily unless someone really does slide, because unless we change the defensive front, there's a lot of bodies, a lot of mouths to feed, and someone always misses out. We saw that with John this year. Like say, he had a good rookie year, and then next thing you know, like he's kind of fighting for his spot really. So there's only so many interior defensive linemen you can get.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see the rookies get the snaps this year. I want to see Brockers lining up alongside Aleem and Levi, and that be it for as much as possible. Let Pedicini get some snaps in as well, but let those guys have the snaps. They're the young ones. We invested twice in that position last year. Let's let them develop so it's not as big of a headache for us going forward on that one. I agree entirely with those. Fan Man, this is in regards to Pickett. He chose not to have his hands measured because they are the third smallest in NFL quarterback history. I'm just trying to think who the top two for the. Do you know who those top two are, Fan Man? Just out of curiosity, would you know who they'd be? I don't, but that's a pretty damning stat to have the third smallest hands in NFL history, if that's true.
That's a mind blowing stat. Can you imagine how many quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era have had hand measurements?
A lot.
That is crazy. Like I said, and I've read somewhere if they are like 8 1/4 or 8 2/8, like I want to know how small the two smallest hands were. Did anyone have 7-inch hands? Did anyone have the hands of like say a 6-year-old boy? And who are they as well? How well did they do? Because people joke, but it's a stat that people really look at. Like it shouldn't mean anything and it shouldn't affect how you play. But when you look that he's coughed up the ball 35 times wearing gloves, and then you look at he's got small hands, you put 2 and 2 together, you get 4.
Yeah.
And people will wonder, what's his ball security going to be like at the next level? Like I say, I think it's funny. It's just funny. I think to talk about it. Like I say, I don't think it'll affect him that much, but I'm not the one that's evaluating him, looking for him. Some people really matters to them.
Oh, someone will pick him early. Someone will. I still think the Steelers could be all in on him there. He plays there. They'll have seen him so much, and they like his style of quarterback. So someone will pick him for sure. I did not read through the rest of the chat when I asked this question, but apparently one of the guys with smaller hands only played one game in the 70s, and being as even our parents were probably young by then, we'll not remember that one there. Michael, although he's asking Luke, he says, what's the latest you see as taking a wide receiver? Since we need a wide receiver for both the 1 and the 2 spots, he reckons the latest would be Pickens in the 2nd or the early 3rd. I mean, that's a good question. If you think about it, we have all our depth guys here, really. We've got 4 or 5 guys who would play the 3rd man or below. I guess if we are going to go wide receiver, we do need to be picking at a point where we're picking a wide receiver 1 or 2. And would you agree?
No, I agree. I don't want any receivers under 6 foot because we've got loads of those guys. We've got lots of smaller possession guys. I want someone that's got a big catch radius, a big frame. I will go the latest to get the big guy like that. 3rd round. I know people don't like it and I don't like it, but I can see the Lions liking someone like Justin Ross. Big guy, lots of upside. He's got that checkered injury history, but if he's put it behind him, they could look to someone like him. He might go in the 3rd, late 3rd, like say as a kind of wide receiver 1. Christian Watson will probably fly up boards now. I think you'll get him. I think someone could love him in the 2nd round. Like I say, I think he 2nd, 3rd round. Like I say, and then the wide receiver 2, if you want to wait for probably say round 4. I think by round 5, we've probably got 2 receivers. I'm seeing a lot of mock drafts where guys are double dipping.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Treylon Burks is going to stand out so much. He's huge. He is a big guy, outside receiver guy, contested catch guy. His hands are 5XL or whatever. I think it's 5XL. He has to have his gloves custom made. His hands are that big. I think, he's the kind of guy who screams out what we don't have at this moment in time. But obviously, he's a 1st round pick. So do you go that? Yeah. There's so many places you can go. It's a funny one, but I know he's not here at the Senior Bowl, but this is draft talk now. I think he's got to be in consideration just for what difference he brings to the table, especially if you're looking for a potential wide receiver 1 or 2. He's got to be in the combo, hasn't he?
He's got to be in the combo, but I don't want to trade up. I don't want to trade up for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I would rather just see how the chips fall and who falls to us, because for me, it's a pretty good class. But then Like someone, I don't want Jahan Dotson for me, because for me, I don't see him as a one. I know a lot of people might do, but for me, he just isn't a one. He is not that. He's not a Mike Evans. He's not a Devontae Adams. He's not a Julio, like say that kind of guy. Like he's not a strong possession, go up and get it kind of guy. Like I say, I think he's a bit undersized for that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that there are some pitfalls as well, but I don't know. I just really like him on that side he was on last year. Think he gives you a lot for what he is, but again, I agree. I think you're gonna have to trade up to get him, and that's not really an option, so he might slip out there. Michael mentions in his next comment, actually mentions a guy you've watched all year. So he mentions Khalil Shakir. He's really impressed him in drills yesterday. Seems impossible to cover, and maybe a bit like Amon-Ra St. Brown in a way. But he says he wouldn't mind having him if we also had a large number one target in play. Would if we did get that large number one target early, would you want to get Khalil Shakir as well? Because I know you really like him. You've watched him all season at Boise State. I mean, would he be on your board if we did go big one wide receiver one early? Would you double dip?
Oh well, yeah, because he has that. He's also a returner. Like if you take him as well, he's probably your punt or kick returner. Like he will probably get a heavy load at sharing the duties as well. Like say, he has been someone that has been he's got that game changing possibility. Like when you need field position or you need something late on, he's the kind of guy that could break off one. Like I say, and I think he'd be a good solid number two if needs be. So I'd look to him right now. I'd say he's on that third, fourth round kind of periphery. So if you want a double dip, he's probably a good middle round pick. I think he's a bit bigger. Amon-Ra, I think he's about 6 foot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think he'd agree. He's in that area. But if you could pick him up somewhere like you did Amon-Ra, you could potentially have a pair of steals year after year at the receiver position there. And I mean, you don't land on those very often. Michael finished off by saying Malik Willis likely to go from 29 to 32. That probably is the sort of. I mean, Ridder, Strong, Willis, all of them could go in that range. Probably a few spots either side. That's going to be the fun thing about this draft, where the quarterbacks drop. Are people going to panic if one goes really early? I don't know. But he also goes, I hope Holmes is working the phones and trading down at 2. I couldn't agree more with that. If we could pick up Hamilton later on and have another first round pick with it, that would be the place to go. Luke says no to the UCLA tight end. That's Greg Dulcich, if I'm remembering rightly. I'd probably agree there. It's Trey McBride all the way for tight ends in it. Although one thing I did notice in the passing yesterday, they were targeting Daniel Bellinger a lot. He's the San Diego State. Is he San Diego State, or am I getting that wrong? I'm right, aren't I? He was getting a lot of targets yesterday, especially from Malik Willis. They seem to be testing him out a lot as well. So I think tight end is certainly a priority for them for me, because I've seen a lot of throws to the tight ends, not the receivers.
Yeah, Bellinger saw a lot of looks as well. Grant Calcaterra, who I can't touch, unfortunately. He's already retired once concussions came back. Like you say, he dropped a pass as well, dropped the odd pass. So he unfortunately didn't cover himself on much glory. Like I say, but he did get targeted a few times by Willis, like I say, and a few of the other guys. He's shown flashes that he's pretty nippy and he's got the crispness. For me, I question how long it'll be before that first on read. But yeah, Daniel Bellinger looked good. Like I say, it's another steady group. Like I say, I know a lot of people that what's his name? Charlie Kohler as well. A lot of people are talking about him still. Like I say, he's someone to certainly look at as well for a possible red zone threat tight end too. That huge 6'6" frame.
Yeah, the tight end class is interesting for sure. I mean, Luke expands, he goes, I like a lot about him, but Lord, does he have some drops I can't make sense of? And that is probably true for him. Dulcich, he got a lot of targets at UCLA last year, and obviously you see the good catches, but you don't see all the bad drops in there as well. But no, if you're listening, Luke, Trey McBride's the guy you want. He is a blocker extraordinaire, and actually he wasn't thought of much as a receiver really. But this week, he's made some great grabs. They said that he was a receiver in waiting. It's just not how he's been utilized at Colorado State. And boy, he has made some catches this week. I mean, yeah, I'd be up to spending a second round pick on him. That's where I'm at with him at this minute in time. So, he's there as well. So, do have a look at him there. Luke says, I never left the chat. I'm just setting up my show. Oh, that's fair enough. I'll come and join you for that later. I love Luke's shows. They're a wonderful smorgasbord of opinions to go on and chat with him there. So I'm going to look forward to that there. Michael says slot guys can be found later on. Number ones can't be found late. Yeah, that's probably true there. He also says Olave could drop a bit, and you've already mentioned there, right? He could. I've always said Garrett Wilson's been the standout number one guy from OSU, and he's probably going to go top 10 at this rate. So, Olave may slip, you never know. Luke also says, I agree, I don't want any wide receivers under 6 feet, echoing your sentiment there, Ryan. That seems to be a big thing here, which is very true. We need one of those big guys on the outside to really mix it up there. And Debt Fan Man's come back saying the smallest hands QP was Doug Hudson, who's drafted in the 7th round by KC in 1987. His hands were 7.25 inches.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, Jesus, just to think, 7.25 inches. How would you wrap your hand round an NFL ball?
I don't think you'd be able to. You'd barely be able to touch the strings or the laces.
Do you reckon they just sort of got it with 2 hands and just lobbed it? just that way, just throw.
Probably lost some really sticky gloves.
Yeah.
If we're talking about disappointments at the Senior Bowl this year for me, cornerbacks. The cornerbacks have not covered themselves in glory at all for me in these first 2 practices. There's been the odd standout, but I've seen a lot of them getting cooked. I've seen a lot of them really struggling to hold their own. I saw Darian Kendrick got picked on a little bit. McCray did all right. Mario Goodrich, he looks decent. I like him. That guy is from Clemson.
Yeah, Goodrich.
Yeah, he had a good year this year, and like I say, he's proven himself working out really well. So there's been some good guys. The UTSA guy, Tyreek Woolen.
Tariq Woolen's a great player.
He clocked one of the fastest times today. Right, I think it was almost like 22 mile an hour. Like I say, he looks really good.
Oh yeah, I love Tariq Woolen. That UTSA team's been really good this year, but yeah, he's been amazing, and he's doing his draft stock no end of good here. But I agree with you for the most part. We really bigged up the corners last week. Obviously, McCreary's in there, Goodrich is in there, Kendrick's in there, Taylor Britt's in there. I've not seen a great deal of Taylor Britt so far. And Woolen's in there, obviously. I was really looking forward to seeing them, but they said the quarterbacks have really been picking on these deep passes. But I suppose it also points out to the fact that there are some good deep threat receivers in this draft as well.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of really pretty deep balls. I'm guessing they're giving a lot of the receivers what to do at line of scrimmage, but you've also seen like when they've been able to get past the receiver, like a lot of these quarterbacks, that's what you want to see, dropping in the deep balls, hitting them in the post or the pylon. They've been doing really well in the long range, like say, just getting their feel for the ball. Got to see what kind of touch they put on it. Is there a little bit too much on it? Are they having to come back and come underneath to try and get it, or is it just dropping in their hands? So, like I said, McCreary, I think what let him down as well, the measurements. I think his arms were really short and his hands were quite small. I think I saw them on Twitter, like people are saying like they didn't expect it. And we know all colleges, they fudge the numbers, don't they? I've seen one guy was at least 2.5 inches. Danny Gray, his numbers were real. Like this guy was like, they said he was like 6 foot, came in at like 5'10" or something like that. Like really undersized to what he was listed at SMU. So they don't do themselves no favors. These colleges just pluck a number. I definitely don't think they measure all these guys when they put their numbers on the websites, because they're measuring officially a lot smaller than they are.
It's one of the best, for me, it's one of the best parts of the Indianapolis Combine when it comes around, because you get the independent guys come in and actually measure them, and you see the sheer difference in some of these guys, and you're like, your college is lying SOBs, really. I mean, some of these measurements are vital as well. To find out so late some of these things, they can really make or break some players. You wonder why they sort of fudge them a bit, because you know you're going to get caught out eventually.
Yeah, like you say, if you find out, like say, a cornerback or receiver is like 2.5, 3 inches shorter than he's listed at, like that's a game changer. Like I say, that changes their whole how you use them at the next level. Suddenly they're not an outside receiver, they're in the slot, or they're not strong enough to hold their own. Like say, if they've got short arms, like say, their ability to play man press, like it changes the whole way you look at a guy when you get their official measurements and like weight as well. You will get guys that are listed at like 210 and they might weigh in at like 197. And you think like, where the hell did 13 pounds go? Like you're a skinny little boy. You can't hold your own. Like say you need to put weight on. Some of that, like say, is certainly interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in other groups, I mean, the linebackers have been doing quite well as well. I've noticed some good linebacking playing here. I mean, I know I completely trashed him last week, but that App State linebacker, DeMarco Jackson, I think he's made some really good plays going on there. And I remember actually ragged on him last week. But another one they were playing there, you'll know this one because you watched Western Kentucky this year, but that DL, oh God, what's it? Malone. They've been playing him as a linebacker, but they called him defensive line going up into this. But he's really sharp there in spurts. I mean, it seems to have been a good position change for him.
Yeah, he was one of those guys where he was a small defensive lineman, but he's a really big linebacker. But he's light on his feet, isn't he? Like you say, I've seen him come up now when a hole's formed in defensive line, he's shot the gap quickly and he's been able to be the first guy to meet the running back. He's shown surprising quickness for quite a big, bulky frame. Like I say, he's looked pretty good in that aspect there. So he's one of those guys that can drop back into coverage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's safe to say these first few days, there's been some positional groups that have done quite well and some that have probably disappointed a lot on the whole there. Is there anything else, from the practices, anything you've read, picked up that you want to mention in regards to Senior Bowl week so far?
Running backs, I feel like they've had a quiet week. Like you say, offensive lines have not created huge holes. Like some of them have broke off the odd run, but it's been a quiet week for running backs in general. All the focus has obviously been on passing and quarterbacks, but I think we'll really see the most of them when it comes to the game. It's kind of hard to judge them in drills because they get whistled dead pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree there for sure. I mean, another guy who took my attention, who we're probably not going to draft him, but just purely for enjoyment of looking at this. I don't know whether you've seen any of his play, but we mentioned him, the receiver Calvin Austin, the really small guy from Memphis. Good God, is he quick? I said he was quick. He's in like the Tyreek Hill mold of quickness. But I mean, Malik Willis loves throw into him, I've noticed. But there was this one play where he got this corner and the corner may as well have stood still and done nothing. He was just like, see you, bye. He was gone. He made a really good catch on that throw as well. But I mean, I don't know if he's the sort of guy we're looking for at the minute, but I mean, he's hella impressive. And his speed, it's just like, he's probably one of the quickest guys there.
Yeah, he's an absolute burner. And who's the guy from Tennessee? He had a great day.
Velus
Velus, like I
Jr.
say, he clocked in at like 22 miles an hour as well. Those two are just like burning past people. Like I say, the corners obviously aren't going out their way to be too physical, but they are just torching guys for fun. And then these deep balls are coming over and they're just in the break basket, like say, or they're overrunning it. They're going too fast. But those two have shown really good speed on the outside, a really good twitchy feet on the inside too.
Yeah, and Velas is in the running. I've mentioned it enough times, but he's the returning. He's got like 2,200 yards of returning in college. He's the returning guy. So if you're looking for a returner, he's the guy to go to. So I fully expect him to be really under the microscope with the Lions brass there, because as you've already mentioned earlier in regards to Shakir, we we really badly need a returner out of this group somewhere. Someone needs to come in and do returning duties.
Yeah, we need someone that's able to it's the explosion. Like say, we have these guys like a Khalif Raymond who, sure, he might get you just past the point of getting a touchback, but at no point do you feel like when he hits a straight line that he's going to burst through the hole and break one off. He's come close occasionally, but then Godwin, I love Godwin, but Godwin's never going to score a kick return touchdown, is he? He's too heavy, and he takes too long to get to top speed. Like I say, he takes him a good 5-10 yards before, like I say, and they receive. He's already getting met by people, so his average is pretty low. We need some guy that is able to just. We need another Jamal Agnew. We need to find that next Agnew that's got that break end speed, that's able to get to the outside when they lose contain, and then take it all the way and make people eat his dust.
Yeah.
Defensive, yeah. I saw one good corner play. I think Kobe Bryant, actually, he's done pretty well in man coverage. I saw one guy, I think Braylon Sanders, the Ole Miss wide receiver, tried to do like a double move on him. And honestly, like he crossed his feet so fast and then took him out on the inside and then trailed him all the way. And it was a fantastic play. Like he looks like he's going to be a really good man corner from Cincinnati. He's actually done really well, but he's not in our group.
No, he does. And, I know we mentioned McCreary and his short arms, but actually, technically, the way he moves, I do really like the way McCreary moves for a corner. I think he's got all he needs there. I think he's got the technical attributes. He's just been shown up a little bit on some of these passes and needs to work on it. But I still do like him. He's still in my really to like category there. But yeah, the returning guys, and also Godwin has return issues, ball security issues. So, some pretty costly ones for this. So someone who can hang on to the ball would be great, and someone who doesn't cost £6 million a year, because I will die on this hill that releasing Agnew was the right decision, just because of the money involved. But hey ho, what you get with that. Right, so that's pretty much everything in terms of the Senior Bowl. Obviously, there's still a few more days to go there, and the game to come. So we'll wrap all that up when it comes next week. You guys have been really sort of active with us in the YouTube chat today. If you've got any more questions for us in regards to the Senior Bowl or the draft, get them into the show. We'll answer them for you now. But just while we're doing that, I'll just pass over to Ryan, because he's sorting out a little segment. He's been telling us about it for a few weeks now, but he's got to about completion where he's ready to announce what he's doing. So, Ryan, what do you have in store for this show in the coming weeks?
Oh yeah, well, I've mentioned it that it's going to go live tomorrow. It's kind of like a mini award show where I'm putting all the votes to you, the people. So I'm gonna make a Google form. Gonna give you from tomorrow till Tuesday to fill it in, like say, and I will find the answers out and put them out next week. I've picked some categories here, and I've gone with some of the people that I think are more deserving. I've tried to avoid the big guys. So I've listed 12 sort of awards or winners. I've got head coach of the year, upset of the year, disappointment of the year, as in team wise, who really struggled. I've got freshman of the year, bowl game of the year, which will not include the playoffs because I want to shy away from them. And then individual performance of the year as well. And then I'll go through quarterback, running back, receiver, defensive linemen I'll keep together, linebackers and defensive backs. So looking to put towards what you, the public, think, who is worthy of these votes. Like say, we've got head coaches got Smart, Saban, Fickle, Tucker, Harbaugh that I'm working on putting out these there. Offense, got the upset of the year, got Montana versus Washington, Purdue when they beat number 3 Iowa, Kansas when they beat Texas in that insane overtime shootout. Like say, who you think really deserves these. Then freshman of the year, got Braylon Allen, Travion Henderson, Brock Bowers, Khalil Ringo, and Josiah Stewart. So who we think really encapsulate what it takes to be as the youngest, the freshman. And then we've got the bowl games. Like say, I've got 8 here. Got Oregon versus Oklahoma. Got the battle for Carolina. So South v North. Got Air Force v Louisville. The Western Kentucky and App State shootout. Oklahoma State v ND, which was end-to-end stuff. Top high-level scoring. Ohio State v Utah. Purdue v Tennessee. And Coastal v NIU, which turned out to be one of the more entertaining games of the year. So I'm going to do it with get some people to retweet it. I've just got Oliver Hodgkinson, the college chap. So I'm going to put this out live tomorrow. If everyone's able to do the poll, and we'll hand out the awards, like a little mini show next week. I'll put out the percentages, who came top 3 in those. So this is your chance to have your say in who you think were the standouts in each of these categories and who you think is deserving of the title awards. Because I've tried to stay away from the bigger names because we all know who they are. I'm going to try and keep it to one player from a team unless I really have to put more than one in. So I don't want it to be flooded with all the big playoff names. But I think it's great to see that we've had the Lions Awards show, I'd say, and now let's do the college one. Get as many people to put the poll together as possible so we get a good spread of results. But yeah, that'll go live tomorrow. We'll tweet when it goes out, and if you could look forward. If you've got any comments on it as well, or if anyone wants to drop us a message tonight, anyone, like say individual performance of the year, someone had that phenomenal numbers, because I'm still working on them. Going to be looking for some footage, but it'll be going live tomorrow. Anyone you think is worthy of any of these awards that I've not mentioned there, but the rest of the players individually, you'll see them live tomorrow. We'll announce them. But gonna go do good spread. I'll give you 5, 6, 7 people to vote from. Lots of choice, let's say, to keep it fair, not what pigeonhole it. But yeah, I want to hear your votes. I'm going to put it all to you, the people. Like I say, we'll pick most of the entrants, but then it's totally up to you to decide who you think's worthy of these.
And there you have it. You've had the awards show on Roar of the Lions UK for the Detroit Lions. Now you've got the awards show for the College Football Podcast. And I'll make you a promise now, if you vote in big enough numbers, I will read on the dressing gown / Christmas tree tinsel outfit that I did for the other one. I will go through another show wearing that, sweating myself to death, just to bring up the aura of the evening, as it were. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. I'll get them splashed all over Twitter. If you could fill them in for us, that would be absolutely great. Again, if you've got any closing